responding to the RFP, we actually try to understand the business operating model of that particular prospect or the lead. What is the nature of the project, first of all? Is it a greenfield kind of a development project, or it's a maintenance or a support activity, or it's a activity from a data migration?
What exactly the digital transformation that you are referring?
No, digital transformation means nowadays companies are not coming to us asking only for a agile transformation. They
Agile
actually call it as a
transformation.
new way of working, NWOW, right? Some new way of
Correct.
working, wherein they actually wanted a holistic solution to take their business operating model to the next level.
So, how can us as an
Yeah,
agile coaches influence the strategic direction and
yeah.
goals?
Yes. So let me share my example. Probably that would answer the question. See, what actually I have done for some of my clients in the past is I have created something like a outcome-based plan to do an agile transformation. What it means is, first of all, we will set a goal. Okay. So that goal could be an agile outcome, like, okay, improvement in the predictability, productivity by
As an agile
15%.
coach or scrum master, your expertise extends far beyond the project or product initiation stage. In fact, your ability to navigate the complexity of pre-sales and budgeting can significantly impact the success of an agile projects or products. In this episode, we will discuss the key strategies, challenges, skills, and opportunities that agile coaches and scrum masters face during the crucial phase. So for today's episode, we have Balaji.T as a guest to talk about role of agile coach and scrum master in pre-sale and budgeting. Balaji is an IT professional with 24 years of experience in the industry and 15 years of agile experience. His expertise is in pragmatic agile, digital transformation, strategic transformation, and OCM in IT. He is currently working on the merger of Agile COE, Enterprise AI COE, and DevOps COE. He is passionate about executive coaching in IT and data science initiatives. So let's get into the conversation about estimating cost, the art of working with finance teams, and the long-term benefits of involving agile coaches in the pre-sales process.
Hello, Balaji.
Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast by Agile Coaching Roundtable. It's a great pleasure having you on our show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, gladly.
Okay, so today we want to have a conversation with you on the topic of, say, sales or maybe contracts or budgeting in Agile. So typically think of it as a world before our project work starts, right? Or a project gets people get onboarded onto the projects, right? So typically for a Scrum Master or an Agile coach, uh, who is not aware of the world before the project kickstarts, right? So what happens, what goes behind the curtains? I mean, how we get the client business and all those things, right? So typically, this is what we are trying to cover as a part of this conversation. And we know that you work as an agile coach, enterprise agile coach, so to speak, and you have worked extensively on these things, right? So to maybe begin with, would like to understand how does the typical pre-sales process for agile projects look like?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So, what actually typically happens is that once we have a prospect or a lead, say for a digital transformation or an agile transformation kind of a initiative, typically companies have something like a customer success team. Okay, depending on the company, the name of the team could actually potentially change. But all that I'm trying to say is someone from the pre-sales support team, someone from the customer success team will be typically involved in the journey so as to funnel through that particular opportunity. So what actually happens is that, right, like when we are actually responding to the RFP, we actually try to understand the business operating model of that particular prospect or the lead. What is the nature of the project, first of all? Is it a greenfield kind of a development project, or it's a maintenance or a support activity, or it's a activity from a data migration or a cloud migration project? So first of all, one need to understand the nature of the project, no, that particular initiative. And then probably, no, depending upon the landscape, depending upon the context, some kind of a domain knowledge is inevitable. Okay. And once we do all these things, right, we actually begin with the conversations or discussions with the prospect to really understand, guys, like, what are your top 4 or 5 challenges, or rather your pain points, and where do you need like our support as a capability offering. So we do something called as a current state assessment, and then try to understand how does the prospect wanted to look the target operating model, and then come up with some kind of a because, for a person who has worked in multiple RFPs, we could see a pattern in those particular RFPs from a pragmatic approach. So what we also try to do is we will understand the current ecosystem of the client, understand the envision the target operating model, and then try to define the process to take the prospect from the current state to the target operating model. And what could be the unique selling proposition what we have, like in terms of your uh, accelerators, your Gen AI capabilities, or any kind of a in-house tools and competencies which you have, probably, optimization or improvement in predictability, productivity, responsiveness, quality, throughput, flow efficiency. Because typically customers look out for all these things, at least from a agile outcome, right? From a business outcome, it could be NPS value, CSAT score, all those things. So once we understand all these things, then we do something called as a RFP playback session. Means a preliminary view or the draft version of the solution capability will be presented to the prospect, and then try to understand the pulse of the prospect. So one need to be very clear on whether it's an RFP defense call versus a playback session. Okay. Typically in a playback session, we try to give a rough view of the solution offering. Okay. And then we try to get to know the pulse of the prospect or a client. And then we get into the pricing model, the costing model, and then any kind of assumptions, limitations, dependencies, and the constraints of the ecosystem. And then we try to position our solution pitch. Okay. So multiple teams come together, join their hands to offer the solution. It is not just the project manager. So a project manager,
Correct.
delivery manager, solution architect, agile coaches, database administrators, everyone come together to actually formulate the particular solution. And what is more important is how are you going to plug it on to the landscape of the client, right?
Yeah.
So I was just trying to give a high level view from my perspective.
Let's try to get into that aspect of when we talk about solution over here. We are not referring to the actual solution or the implementation or maybe the after execution phase once the customer gets onboarded, right? What solution we are referring to over here is maybe the customer comes in with a problem statement or maybe whatever the expectations is. We're trying to give him or give the customer a 50,000 feet view of what the ideal solution or maybe what maybe an thesis in terms of this might be the approach towards the problem statement that he is referring to, right?
Yes. So what we see, what actually typically companies used to follow is they have their own center of excellence, right? It could be a DevOps COE, or it could be a Agile COE, or even companies have a enterprise AI COE, Artificial Intelligence Center of Excellence. So these typical center of excellence will have their own in-house capability offerings, multiple case studies they have, wherein they have seen a similar kind of an engagement in the past, though not a same kind of an engagement. Say, for example, right, for one of our client in the past, the client wanted a DevOps transformation canvas. Means the client wanted to do an assessment on the current infrastructure setup and then come up with a biz DevOps or a DevSecOps or a DevSecOps SRE kind of a site reliability engineering kind of a capability. So what we used to do, we have our uh, in-house accelerators and capabilities, which is going to create a DevOps transformation canvas for them, right? Like typically in an agile driven engagement, right? We actually uh, take a lean approach to whatever we are trying to do,
Correct.
right? So yeah, so instead of a bulky documentation, we try to put it in a A4 sheet kind of a template or a A3 kind of a template, right? So what we used to do is we used to create a transformation canvas, which is going to tell, okay, what is the problem statement? See, we also do something called a strategic refactoring workshop. Okay, what it means is we are trying to understand the systemic uh, uh, systemic issues in the landscape, right? It could be due to dependency management, it could be due to budgeting issues, it could be due to release management challenges. So unless and until we know the systemic issues of the client landscape, we cannot create a personalized solution, and a
Correct.
generic solution will not sell through. So as part of the solution offering, we give them a blueprint and we tell them a high level offering. Guys, this is what we will be going to do. These are the workshops which we will do, and these are the indicative outcomes for it, right? Possibly at at the end of the strategic refactoring workshop. Okay, basically it is a workshop conducted at a business workflow level optimization. So once you are done with this workshop, we can guide you further on how to create a solution for your systemic issues. So I think any kind of a solution offering should touch the heartbeat of the systemic issues. If not, no, in the name of transformation, we are creating one more problem to the prospect or lead or the client.
Correct.
That's my
Absolutely.
perspective.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So maybe just to understand, so whatever you mentioned about understanding the current landscape
Landscape.
or understanding the systemic issues, right? So this is what you're mentioning before the actual project kickstarts, right? This is still at
Yes.
the RFP level is what we are having a discussion, right?
Correct.
So maybe to just put a perspective for our audiences, uh, let's go a step behind, and maybe if you can explain what RFP is all about. So for people who are like a beginner agile coaches or maybe beginner scrum masters, if they
Yeah.
want to understand what this RFP process, how it works, if you can put a perspective on that.
Yeah, RFP actually indicates request for a proposal. As the name indicates, what actually happens is, let's say a bank has some kind of a problem in their digital transformation. So that bank has the domain knowledge and the functional capability. But then, unfortunately, that particular bank doesn't have the technology kind of a competency to solve the problem. So what they actually do is they will be trying to reach out to multiple vendors. Some companies call it as vendors, some company call it as partners or suppliers. Whatever it is, it's like a client and a vendor kind of a relationship, right? So these prospects try to float their particular RFP to multiple vendors and then try to get the different perspectives from different vendors, and then whosoever they feel that yes, this particular company has the capability to solve my problem. Some of the clients typically go for it. Budget is also one more important factor over there, right? Because no
Correct.
because yeah, because this is the difference between a certification program versus a real time execution. Because in a real time execution, you need to operate within the constraints of scope, cost, and time and all, right? So, but budget is also one of the important deciding criteria to actually decide, okay, can I give this particular project to this particular vendor? So I think clients will take a trade-off call, between the cost benefit analysis in their mind, and then they sign the deal for the RFP. Okay. Get typical like yeah, it's like most of the RFPs need to be written out of conversations and collaborations. It's not that we will just read the document and then come up with a solutioning approach. Okay, something like that.
So, yeah. So since you touched base upon the aspect of budgeting over here in terms of making that decision, right?
Yeah.
So maybe, just from that point of view, uh, what factors or maybe, considered when estimating the cost or maybe and the resource requirements over here for an agile transformation or maybe, the business transformation as well, right? As you mentioned, one aspect of it is budgeting. In that budgeting as well, I mean, how do we come to that conclusion? Okay, for any transformation, this might be an estimation or the estimated budget around the entire transformation program.
Yeah, so let me give a couple of views here, right? Couple of views so that the answer becomes more holistic. Okay, we have something called as a purist view versus a pragmatic view. Okay, now let me tell on the purist view. When it comes to the purist view, probably people say that hey, in the PMP we have some cost benefit analysis formulas and all. We can actually do some high level costing, and then you can actually get into the rate card details of the resource. See, now the costing need to be segmentized into different buckets, right? One actually could be the capital expenditure, operational expenditure, some kind of a overhead cost, and purchasing the tools and the licenses, infrastructure, and also some amount of cost will be done for consulting and training and coaching. So we need to clear at least some high level segments. Now, a pragmatic approach says, guys, don't do all these things. First of all, keep the end. First of all, keep the end goal in the mind. What is the PAT? PAT stands for profit after tax, right? So in some of my engagements, my delivery heads and the delivery managers, what they typically do is they will first fix the PAT value, profit after tax, and then they will do the reverse calculation. Because in the industry, it is not always that you create a WBS and then do match the following like XYZ cost
Correct.
is ABC. You cannot sum it up and then give it like that. That's not the way the industry runs. In a typical real-time engagement, we have something called as a CPD, corporate pricing deck. Okay. So what see, now different companies call it in different names, but that funda is that particular costing sheet will be integrated into the financial portal of the company.
Oh,
Yeah, and then based upon the region, based upon the strategic positioning of that particular relationship between the customer and the client and the vendor, no, we also need to look into the customer lifetime value, right? Because in some of the engagements, we actually wanted our guys to go over there first to have a footprint. There we will not think about budgeting for now. Correct. So so many
hmm,
factors need to be there. So the point here is in some of the engagement, what typically happen is they will fix the EBIT margin or they will fix the PAT value, and then they will do the reverse calculation. Okay, guys, in the first quarter, if I wanted to have 12.5% of the PAT value, then what should be the billing? What should be the invoicing? So now some guys ask me, okay, do you have a formula for this 12.5? Like no, most likely no. That particular number comes out of conversation. So all that I'm
correct.
trying to say to the future agile aspirants, all those people is whenever a given situation comes, you also need to think from a purist approach versus a pragmatic approach. And also from an interview point of view, like if you can present both the approaches, then you are actually covering all the colors of the rainbow.
Absolutely. Well said, Balaji. So maybe since you've spoken about the approaches, the purist and pragmatic approach, right? So for an example, considering you are an agile coach and you are working on a typical RFP, right? So how does a agile coach or a scrum master contribute to the development of a compelling value proposition for a potential client?
See, an agile coach can actually contribute to how the pod structure can be done and what will be the composition of the pod structure. And see, for a example, right? Once we have clarity on the current state assessment and the target operating model, agile coach can come inside and then create a transformation roadmap for them, saying that guys, This is the 30-day, 60-day, 90 days plan. Okay.
Mhm.
And these are the series of activities which we need to do. Probably I will begin with an agile maturity assessment. And these are the parameters to be considered in the assessment. And once the assessment is done, based on the outcome of the assessment, based on the retrospective insights, I will create a 30-day, 60-day, 90-day coaching plan. So from my experience, right, we have three main pillars. One is called the system of delivery. Second is called a system of transformation. Third is called a system of a continuous improvement. All it means is system of a delivery is more on the product roadmap. It's more on the agile release planning and the milestone planning. System of transformation is agile transformation roadmap, agile coaching plan. System of a continuous improvement is fulfillment of the retrospective action items. Now, the problem with the industry is system of delivery will be going in one direction. System of transformation will be going in some other direction. Now, an agile coach can come as a central hub and then trying to converge those particular energies. Okay. If not, what happens? No, energy will get dissipated unnecessarily.
Correct.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Energy also needs a direction and a purpose behind it, right? If not, it will get dissipated. So that is the role of an agile coach to come inside and play the role of an improvement enabler. So what exactly do you need to improve? That actually comes from the context. It could be a technical agile coach, or it could be a process coach. And also it could be like, someone who has experience in multiple frameworks can actually suggest the prospect or a lead to take a trade-off call, which one to use where and for what reason.
True.
Yeah.
Absolutely true. Yeah. Uh, so those three pillars that you spoke about, right? I mean, how do we come to that understanding, or maybe during the RFP process itself, right? We might not have that level of insight when we are, proposing, or we are getting into that conversation with the customer, So how do you think as an agile coach can work over here with maybe the different departments within an organization, maybe talking about the finance team or the procurement department, right? To ensure that, enough budget or resource allocation is taken care into the RFP time itself.
See, it again actually okay. The answer fundamentally differs, based on the budgeting model or the costing model used by the company also. Because some cases we also need to be very clear: are we going to propose a linear model or a non-linear model to do the costing? But the good point with the agile is because it is because at any point in time it is always working on a prioritized backlog, risk adjusted prioritized backlog. Whatever money we are pumping in at the beginning days of the engagement, it is believed to potentially yield a
Correct.
yield a
Results.
value. Yeah. But in some cases we also suggest some kind of a MVP, some kind of a epic hypothesis validation, wherever we are also having some kind of a shades of uncertainty, right? So I think these particular sections need to be called out in the risk and in the mitigation plan. If in case if there is a kind of a insufficiency in the funding, can I take a call of suspend this particular activity and then refurnish this particular the remaining money to some other initiatives also on the go, and we call it as a capital deployment concept. What it means is, okay, whatever you have invested, you have got the benefit. At any point in time, if you feel that for the remaining features, it's not going to give that great potential market value, then you take this particular fund and then put it to some other initiative. Okay. Now,
Correct.
let me give a simple example, right? Okay. Let's say Ramya and Vivek is actually going to a financial consultant. Okay. And then you both are saying, hey, now I have 4 lakhs in my hand. I want to put it in some of the mutual funds or a stock or share. Now a wise financial consultant will say, ma'am, let's not invest all the funds in a single thing, because it's like putting all the eggs
Eggs in
in
a
a
one
single
basket.
basket, right? So your financial consultant may say, hey, why don't you diversify the funds so that you can put some 20, 20, 20, and then for a quarterly period, we will see how the market responds, right? And then based on that, we can accordingly strategize it on the go. This is a similar concept what happens in the dynamic budgeting. Based on the MVP validation, you can decide whether to fund it more or not. But then the point to be kept in mind is not all companies are product companies which mandatorily demand you to do a MVP and a hypothesis validation. If you
Absolutely.
are if you are taking a service company, the project is already approved. It's been funded by someone. That is why it is inside the funnel. So I think the answer to the question also need to be aligned with the business operating model and not just agile.
Correct. And that's
Yeah,
exactly
that's
what
it.
I wanted to check is how can agile coaches influence strategic direction and goals of an organization during this pre-sales phase, right? The reason being, uh, what I have seen typically happening is, for an example, there is some RFP that is to be written, right?
Yeah,
So, agile coaches are called just before sending out that RFP, saying, you know what, can you give us some slides for RFP? Or how can we put some agile flavor to it, right? But then what we are talking about over here is driving entirely from the agile perspective, right? Right from the RFP process, when we have a conversation with the customers, understanding their current state, that is something we are driving entirely from the agile space, right? But then in reality, I have seen some cases wherein agile coaches are just called right before sending out that RFP response, right? So how can us as an
yeah,
agile coaches influence the strategic direction and
yeah.
goals?
Yes, yes. So let me share my example. Probably that would answer the question. See, what actually I have done for some of my clients in the past is I have created something like a outcome-based plan to do an agile transformation. What it means is, first of all, we will set a goal. Okay. So that goal could be an agile outcome, like okay, improvement in the predictability, productivity by 15% within the completion of a quarter two. Okay, I am just giving an example here. Based on the context, we may need to change it. Improvement in a
Correct.
predictability. Okay, improvement in a predictability by Q1. Reduction in the technical debt. Okay, compression in the lead time, compression in the cycle time, improvement in the throughput. 15% improvement in the flow efficiency. Why? Because if you improve your predictability, productivity, throughput, flow efficiency, you can have a better go-to-market strategy. So the point to be kept in mind by agile coaches is how am I going to connect the agile outcome to the business outcome? See, if you are going to the CXO person of an organization, the CXO person doesn't know anything on a story point, velocity, Jira,
Exactly.
burn down chart, and burn up chart,
Yeah.
right? Because typically a CXO person focuses on operating margin, gross margin, EBITDA, customer acquisition cost, better go-to-market strategy, recurrence revenue. But then the point is, you cannot achieve and sustain all these things if you are unable to achieve at least the agile outcomes. So
Correct.
the gap in the industry, what I see is people do so many things, but connecting that particular dots are missing there. Why
Correct.
am I doing this in this way? That connecting piece, because unfortunately, most of the companies have only managers. We are not having mentors to guide us, like in our organization also, right? So that also could be one of the reasons. So my say is that what is that we have done in the past is we have started looking into the OKR, right? The objective and key results, and
Results.
then trying to build something called OKR driven product roadmap. Okay, OKR driven agile transformation roadmap means you build your agile transformation roadmap itself in such a manner, know that at the end of the transformation you are achieving that particular objective. Okay, improvement in the CSAT by 15%, improvement in the NPS value by 20%. I'm not bothered about whether you use safe or not, or less or that, or
Correct.
Spotify Nexus, all those things. Those things come at an execution level, not at a strategy level, right?
True.
So one
Absolutely.
of the one of the point to be kept in mind is what is the outcome that you are trying to do, whether it's an outcome positioned at a development value stream, also called as a product value stream, or it's an outcome positioned at a customer value stream, also called as an operational value stream. Depending on that, you need to orchestrate the roadmap. That is why it is called as strategy. Strategy is something which you cannot copy paste it from the internet.
Absolutely.
Because if it is so easy to copy paste, no, people will not call it as a strategy, right? So based that context should be essenced somewhere in that planning journey. That's my perspective to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely true. And then this is again, where I would like to understand is like, uh, what are the long-term benefits that you see in, when we, or whether we should be involving agile coaches in the pre-sale process altogether, right? Maybe as Ramya, she shared her own experience, maybe the agile coaches are involved at a very later stage where, most of the discussions, maybe the strategic level discussion or the technical or maybe the solutioning level discussions are already done, but they still need an agile flavor implementation or maybe the execution aspect of driving this entire program, right? What benefits in terms of the long-term opportunities that you see when agile coaches get involved into this entire RFP process?
Yeah. So, okay. So, from my perspective, right, this particular question has a couple of aspects or dimensions. First thing is that agile coaches should also know about other aspects also. It is not just on the agile frameworks and the coaching aspects. Okay. So, one of the point which comes to my mind is organization change management, which we call it as a
Mhm.
OCM, because the point, okay, now one of the reasons why agile coaches also need to know all these things is you cannot do a digital transformation, strategic transformation, and then sustain it without having a solid foundation of organization change management. Unfortunately, in the agile certifications, they do not talk about OCM in a
Mhm.
very elaborative manner. Now, the point to be kept in mind is if you look into my own YouTube channel and other LinkedIn articles, I actually use an analogy over there. Means, first of all, prepare the soil before you sow the seed. If you are not preparing the soil, you are wasting the potency of this, the seed. Now, preparing the soil is organization change management. Once the soil has been prepared, even when you throw the seed has the potency to get growing into your plant. Now, what happens in the companies is this project manager, delivery manager, program managers will be focusing on the triple constraints of the engagement: scope, cost, and
Correct.
time, considering that quality has been assumed. Considering that quality has been assumed. But in many transformations fail because because they are not having an organization change management. Second thing, they are not focusing on the sustainability plan. What is the
Absolutely.
guarantee? What is the guarantee after you improve, you will not fall down from the improved level? Because we all are human beings, right? We have our old tendencies or habits. Philosophically, they call it as a vasanas. Vasanas.
Yes.
But if I want to put it in English, if you have our habits and the tendencies, now that is where exactly the change agents and these agile coaches should come into picture, and then focus more on the transformation part alone. See, agile transformation has two compartments: agile plus transformation. If coaches focus only on the agile part, who will take care of the transformation part? So,
Absolutely.
uh,
Well.
so, so from my experience, what I say is this: agile coaches, you call it as a coach or a consultant or whatever be that title, should give a holistic solution more on the change management and also on the sustainability playbook. So whenever I formulate a strategy for digital transformation, I always close it with a playbook, and that playbook will ensure every quarter that the teams will come back to the playbook, take a quick check whether we are able to sustain the momentum or we got fallen down from the present level. I think these are all some of the
Interesting.
places where agile coaches can come in and then plug the gap.
Interesting, Balaji. So I think this is exactly what Vivek today we were doing that, right? Preparing a playbook
True,
kind
true.
of a thing. Yeah, and it's so funny that we were doing just before we got into this conversation. And what caught my attention is Balaji, you mentioned about the digitalization, right? Digital transformation,
It's the
basically.
transformation.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so can you put some light on that? I mean, for the audiences, what exactly the digital transformation that you're referring?
No, digital transformation means nowadays companies are not coming to us asking only for a agile transformation. They
Agile
actually call it as a
transformation.
new way of working, NWOW, right? Some new way of
Correct.
working, wherein they actually wanted a holistic solution to take their business operating model to the next level, not just implementing agile and then use it as a process. So when I was trying to do a digital transformation, I create a questionnaire. Okay, see, the point here is, if we are sending too many questions also, people will not respond to it, right? Sometimes like if you even write a lengthy mail, people will not reply to the mail. So that there so what I used to do is, like see, before we go to digital transformation, right, one need to know the basic concepts:
Correct.
digitization, digitalization. Then we actually have the digital transformation. So what that they wanted to do is, they wanted to change the business operating model itself, so that we can leverage multiple things, using the current technology cutting edge. Okay, be it on the cloud operation, or be it on the cloud, or using some. So like, it's a very broad subject, right? But all that I'm trying to say is, nowadays actually company wanted them to understand my business operating model, and then come up with a customized agile framework, or a customized capability which will solve my problem. I'm not interested to know what Safe is saying, Spotify is saying. I wanted to know how those things will resonate with my ecosystem. That I think that plugging it to the landscape is the challenge over there.
Absolutely. So typically, what you're trying to say is, when you're doing a digital transformation, understand or maybe formulate that transformation plan or playbook, whatever you want to call, under different key areas. So one could be business strategy, one could be processes, it could be maybe tools, technology, it could be leadership, right? So there could be different areas under which you can do this transformation into.
Yeah, and one more thing is that when we are seeing from a digital transformation, we also need to understand the business model canvas of the client. If you go for a typical
Mm.
lean business model canvas, it is going to tell what are all the communication channels, what are all the market segments, what is the value proposition that we are trying to do. And also, see, sometimes when we are formulating a strategy, we also look into the competitors of the client to take clues, right? We also take some kind of an insights from the Gartner quadrant, like, okay, how are those competitors are positioned from a market perspective? Because we always need to bring in the outside in approach, because customers know their landscape, but they don't know what's really happening in from the outside in perspective. So there we need to go and then tell them as a trusted partner, guys, these are all the things which the market is currently trending towards, and we are here to give you a reference point for it. Do you like to explore it? I think asking the right questions, and then know and also we need to co-create the solution. It's not that we create a solution and then try to force fit the solution to the prospect.
Correct.
So those psychological aspects, that particular empathy, everything matters in terms of this coaching and consulting. It's not just the agile capability alone.
Yes, absolutely. So maybe an extension to the same conversation, right, where you said that even in a typical agile transformation, there are two aspects, agile and the transformation. So if as an agile coach, if you only focus on the agile aspect, who is going to take care of the transformation, right? So this is where exactly what I would like to explore is the skill aspect, the agile coach need to have, right? So what are the specific skills or maybe that are really essential for agile coaches working in the aspect of an RFP or a pre-sales and in the budgeting role aspect, right? Apart from the agile aspect of the skill that they have, what are the other things that they need to build upon to ensure that they are successful doing this?
See, probably no. See, we need to definitely have the questioning skills or the capabilities to ask the right kind of questions to the prospect, so that prospects have never thought through that particular problem statement from that angle. So, questioning, don't the kind of a questioning means like it actually should not be positioned as an explicit questioning, right? As part of the normal conversation itself, we need to not take them from the
Extract the
uh,
information.
yeah, from their blind spots to bright spots. If I want to put it in coaching world, we have some blind spots to bright spots. That particular question should actually transition them, and we need to ask them, okay, what other avenues of possibilities had you thought through in the past with some other vendor, something like that. um I'm just thinking. So what actually we used to do is that sometimes we create some questionnaire. Sometimes we try to send a checklist to them and then try to have some conversation with them. And then we actually show them like, no, yeah, 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 typically a kind of a
Blueprint.
similar engagement. See, for example, when your banking client comes, some of the FATCA, JATCA, some of the challenges which are oriented to banking, that will be common for all the clients. Of course, it will
Correct.
vary from geography to geography because some of the government regulations and compliances and policies will actually differ from geographical locations. So what I was trying to say is you understand the business operating model, understand the upstream and downstream dependencies in that entire landscape, and then you try to take them through a journey. It should not happen that I have a preconceived notion in the mind and then try to sell my product. So
Absolutely.
they actually generally tell, right, don't build a product and then find the audience. No, you find the
Yeah.
pain point of the audience. First of all, you find the pain point of the audience, then you build a product so that your product need not be marketed more because your product exactly fits them. So I think these kind of things also need. Okay, now let me tell one more important point which many people miss out. Okay, I also actually missed out in the past. Sometimes people tend to fail to make good amount of internal connects within the organization itself.
Yeah.
See,
Okay.
True.
one of your colleagues' friend might be okay. One of your colleague, right, in the same department or in a similar department, okay, will be an expert in some kind of a DevOps implementation or Python coding or any kind of a ETL extraction jobs and all. And sometimes that guy will be just seated, 2 seats away from us, and
We
we
don't
will be
know.
writing mail to some people in US or UK. Hey guys, can you help on this? Help on this. So I think making that internal connect within the organization, both in a formal manner and also in an informal manner, is of a paramount importance. I think these are all some of the traits. Okay, I'm not having a direct answer to your question, but these are the thoughts which we need to keep in mind.
Absolutely. So, and these are the important things, right? So, other things can be taught. These are the things that only comes through experience, right? These are the things cannot be taught, only can be learned through our mistakes, right? As you mentioned, you also missed this, and that's the reason why it stayed on the top of your mind. So, unless until we make mistakes, we don't learn this. And only when we share such information through podcasts like this or maybe platforms like these, right? Only
Hmm.
when this information can be extracted.
Correct.
And
And
also
Ramya,
maybe,
actually,
yeah,
just one more point. One more point. What I like to say is, uh, let's say a problem statement or a situation or a scenario comes to us. Okay, it could be digital
correct.
transformation, agile transformation, business transformation also. Now some people ask me, hey, Balaji, so what will you do exactly in this particular situation? The first question what I ask them back is, what is my role in that context? because for the
Absolutely.
same because for the same situation, if I am positioned as an agile coach, then my thoughts should be in sync with the role. If I am positioned as a delivery manager, At that time, I will not be bothered about coaching, consulting. I will be looking into scope, cost, and time.
True.
Right. So what I'm trying to say is we need to wear the, different hat for the same problem when the context changes. So one of the
Correct.
so even in the interviews, when I take a interview to the candidate, right, I actually give a situation to them. No candidate asked me, hey Balaji, what is my role in this? They will immediately jump on to
Wow.
solving the case
Jump into
study.
solution. Yes.
Yeah, no one
Game
asked me,
changer.
okay, what's my role in this case study? Is it an agile project manager or an agile coach? See, uh, there is a saying, right? Uh, Medicine is not just given for the disease. No, medicine is given for the patient, not just for the disease, right?
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
Understand the patient from a system thinking point of view, understand the other vital parameters of the patient holistically, then only medicine should be given. It's not that for this disease, this medicine should be given. So one of the point what when I take an interview, when I give a scenario or a situation, one of the question what I expect from the candidate is, okay, so what's my role in this case study? Is it an RTE or an agile coach or an agile project manager? Depending upon the role, for the same case study, we need to respond to it differently. I think these parameters are somewhat important, which we need to keep in mind.
I think this last thing that you mentioned, right? That's a game changer, I would say. Understanding what role we would be playing in that particular context will decide our maybe if we are consultants, then the solutions. If we are agile coaches, then coaching or mentoring, right? So, and talking about you conducting interviews, so we also know that you run your own mentorship programs,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So can you talk more about that program? I know that you have been running this since 2021, just like us. So
Correct, correct.
maybe
Yes.
for the people who want to maybe enroll for your mentorship program, because the amount of knowledge you have is like impeccable, right? So if someone wants to learn from you, if you can talk about your mentorship program.
Yeah. So what actually happened is that many years back, when I actually did multiple agile certifications, I came to know that there is always a gap between certification knowledge versus a real-time capability building, right? So
True.
what I did is somewhere in because in 2020 itself, I was doing some coaching and mentoring through some references, okay, in the world of agile. But beginning from March 2021, I started a program called the AMP, which is called as a Agile Mentorship Program. So if someone go to Google and then type of Balaji plus Agile and then click on the videos, one can see my YouTube channel and all my articles and all. So what I have done is here I have created something like a L1, L2, L3, depending upon the level of the, because see, I cannot take a lesson plan of a Scrum Master and then give it to an agile practice head. Because for an agile practice head, the OKRs and KRAs and KPIs are different, right? So for agile practice head, we need to teach them how to do balance sheet driven agile transformation. We should not teach them how to install Jira and then write a user story kind of a thing. So what I have done is like I came up with different lesson plans for different target groups like project managers, program managers, RTE, Scrum Masters and all. As of now, I have 152 people in the mentorship program, only through organic pull. We never ran a single ad till date. Only through organic pull, I was able to attract 152 people in the mentorship program, categorized across different lesson plans. So one can go to my website of balajiagile.com and then get to know more about the details.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that information, Balaji. And the amount of knowledge, as I said, you have, it is impossible for us to condense in a single podcast. So I think we would definitely love to have another podcast
Yep.
maybe in future. But then for today, I think we can take a pause so that we can meet again for a future podcast.
Yep.
So thank you so much, Balaji, for coming over and doing this podcast. We
Yep.
really learned and enjoyed a lot.
I just want to give one or two closure thoughts, if we
Yes,
can,
please. Yes, please,
if
please.
we can just do the closure thoughts. And see, one thing one thing what I like to say to agile aspirants and other IT professionals is that you don't look for a perfection. You need to look for a progression, right?
Wow.
Had I did something today better than yesterday, can I do something tomorrow better than today? I think as long as that thought process is, because I have seen some people have that fear to make a YouTube video. Some people have the fear to write blogs on the social media platform. Hey, what will happen if I go wrong?
Absolutely.
Nothing is going to happen. You can delete that post and you can re-edit it if you want. So I also had those kind of inhibitions, in my childhood days and all. And I consciously taken measures to come out of that particular inhibitions, because talent is one thing, having that, because if someone has that particular inhibition, they cannot go live on the social media platforms.
Correct.
So one of my suggestion to not no not only to the agile aspirants but to general IT professionals or whosoever it is, one need to come out of that particular inhibition. You start making YouTube videos. Initially, when I made my YouTube video, my friends used to laugh. Okay, so what? But but I continued the journey.
Exactly.
Today, yeah, today I have a 2.5K subscribers. Okay,
Wow.
yeah, and I
That's
have my
huge.
own, yeah, and I have my own agile enthusiast WhatsApp group also. Initially, when I actually began that group, I had only 12 people in that group. People were asking me, hey, Balaji, what are you going to do with the 12 people? Today, I have 1,015 people, 10,
Wow.
Wow.
only through organic pull. So my say is that we need to begin the journey and look for progression rather than waiting for that perfect moment to happen. You will not get a perfect moment. You need to make the existing moment to become perfect over a period of time, right?
Wow. Wonderful.
Like we,
Well said,
like
Balaji.
say, no, like we used to say, no, you will not get a cross-functional team 100%, but you can make your existing team to become cross-functional and
Cross-functional.
self-organized over a period of time. Okay, that's so. Those are my closure thoughts, and thanks a lot for both of you for giving me this opportunity, and I truly respect it.
It's our pleasure, Balaji, completely.
Gladly.
Thank you so much for watching this episode patiently till the end. We hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll meet you again in the next episode. Till then, if you like our podcast show, then do like, share, subscribe, and let us know your feedback in the comment section. You can also listen to the episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Audible. Thank you.